My name is Captain Nana Gyasi. I am 32 years old. I have been an intelligence analysis officer for 8 years, and on a Wednesday morning in June, I discovered that I had attended a classified briefing I had never attended. Not a briefing I had forgotten, a briefing that had taken place on a Tuesday I could account for completely. A Tuesday when I had been at my desk from 0730 to 1845 with no gaps. A Tuesday when I had filed 3 analysis reports, attended a scheduled unit meeting, eaten lunch in the officers' mess with Sergeant Lena Benson, and left the building at 1845. I had not attended any briefing. I had not been invited to any briefing. I had not known any briefing was taking place. On Wednesday morning, my commanding officer, Colonel Peter Opoku, called me into his office and asked me to confirm my understanding of the operational parameters discussed in the Tuesday briefing. I said I had not been at any briefing on Tuesday. He said I had. My name was on the attendance log. My signature was beside it. I said, "Colonel, I was not in that room. I do not know whose signature is beside my name, but it is not mine." Let me tell you what the briefing was. A classified session, 12 officers. The subject was an upcoming operation, a signals intelligence operation in a region I had been working on for 4 months. The briefing had covered the operational parameters, the risk assessment, the rules of engagement. The attendance log existed because the briefing contained information classified above standard unit access. Attendance was documented because the institution needed a record of which officers had received which classified information. Officers who attended were considered to have received the briefing's contents and were bound by the protocols that followed from it. If my name was on that log, I had legally received that briefing. I had not received that briefing. My name was on the log. My signature was beside it. I had not signed anything.
The object at the center of everything was the attendance log, a single sheet, pre-printed with the names of officers expected to attend. 12 names, 12 signature lines, 11 genuine signatures, and one that was not mine beside my name. I know my signature well. 8 years of signing analysis reports and operational assessments and clearance documents. My signature has a shape that is mine. The shape beside my name on that log was close. It had been studied. It had been practiced, but it was not mine. Colonel Opoku had looked at it for a long time when I placed my own signature on a blank page beside it. He said nothing for 11 seconds. Then he said, "You need to tell me where you were on Tuesday." I told him everything. The desk, the 3 reports, the unit meeting, the lunch with Sergeant Benson, the 1845 departure. He said, "Is there anyone who can verify your presence at each of those points?" I said, "Sergeant Benson can verify the lunch. My access card will show my entry and exit times. The reports are time-stamped and filed under my credentials from my workstation terminal. The unit meeting attendance sheet with my name and Opoku's. A written statement from Sergeant Lena Benson confirming our lunch in the officers' mess between 12:15 and 13:10. 4 independent verification points. None of them placed me anywhere near the briefing room on any point on Tuesday. I sent the file to Opoku at 13:47. He forwarded it to the Intelligence Oversight Division at 14:12. Lieutenant Colonel Hilda Nkum arrived at the base the following morning.
Nkum was methodical in the way of someone who has learned that the first assumption in a forgery case is almost never the correct one. She did not begin with the signature. She began with the attendance sheet itself. The sheet had been pre-printed before the briefing, names of expected attendees typed and formatted in advance. This was standard procedure for classified briefings. The list was prepared from the invitation record, printed, and brought to the room for signatures. Nkum's team pulled the invitation record. My name was not on it. I had not been invited to the briefing, which meant my name had been added to the pre-printed attendance sheet after it was prepared, but before it was circulated for signatures. Or the sheet that was circulated for signatures was not the original sheet. Nkum found the answer in the document preparation logs. The attendance sheet had been printed twice. The first print at 06:14 Tuesday morning, 11 names, the genuine invitees. The second print at 08:41, 12 names, including mine, from the same template file that had been accessed and modified between the two prints. Someone had added my name to the template between 06:14 and 08:41 on Tuesday morning, had printed a replacement sheet, had brought the replacement sheet to the briefing, and had signed beside my name after the other 11 officers had signed and left the room. The access log showed a credential. The credential belonged to Major Bernard Nyanteh. Nyanteh was the officer responsible for coordinating classified briefing logistics for the division. He had prepared the original attendance sheet. He had access to the template. He had the means to print a replacement. He had also been present at the briefing as a logistics coordinator, not as an attendee, but as the officer who collected and filed the signed sheet afterward. He had been alone with the signed sheet for 17 minutes between the briefing's conclusion and its filing. In classified briefings of this type, officers locate their own name on the printed roster, sign their own line, and leave. Nobody cross-checks the full list against the bodies present. An absent name on a line draws no attention. Only an unsigned line would trigger a flag. Nyanteh had brought the 12-name sheet to the room. 11 officers had signed their own lines without auditing the full roster. He had signed beside her name during those 17 minutes alone. 17 minutes. Long enough to add a signature beside a name that should not have been on the sheet. Nkum brought him in for questioning on day 3 of the investigation. She did not tell me what he said in that room. That was not information I was entitled to at that stage. What she told me was that the investigation was proceeding and that I was not under any suspicion, and that the verification file I had compiled had been described by her team as among the most thorough self-documentation they had reviewed in a case of this kind. I appreciated her saying it. I understood it was also information, that the thoroughness of my own documentation had mattered, that the timestamps and the access card and Sergeant Benson's statement had not been administrative detail. They had been the architecture of my own defense, built before I had known I needed one. 8 years of filing clean records had prepared me for a Wednesday I had not seen coming. Why had Nyanteh added my name? The investigation found the answer over the following 8 weeks. The briefing had covered the operational parameters of an upcoming signals intelligence operation. The operation required formal, documented consent from officers of a specific rank and clearance level. That consent was established through briefing attendance. Officers who attended were considered to have given informed consent to the operational parameters. The operation as planned had a component that was outside standard authorized parameters, a component that required consent from a broader base of officers than the genuine 11 invitees provided. My name gave them a 12th. My clearance level, which was higher than several of the genuine attendees, gave the consent record a weight it would not otherwise have had. My name had been chosen because my clearance made me useful. My absence from the actual briefing meant I had never heard the component I was being recorded as having consented to. A component that, when Nyanteh's investigation reviewed it, was found to be an unauthorized expansion of the operation's mandate, one that several of the genuine attendees had raised concerns about during the briefing itself, but had ultimately not formally objected to. My name on the consent record had helped make the component appear more broadly supported than it was. The operation had already been actioned through an approval gate before I raised the discrepancy on Wednesday morning. That was the point. The forged consent did not need to survive indefinitely. It only needed to hold long enough for the approval to clear. Nyanteh had known the scheme was fragile. He had needed days, not permanence. By the time I walked into Apoku's office, the component had already moved.
I had consented to nothing. Major Bernard Nyanteh was charged with forgery of an official military document, unauthorized modification of a classified record, and conduct prejudicial to good order and military discipline. He pleaded guilty to all 3 charges. He is serving 3 years. The operational component that had required the inflated consent record was reviewed pending a full authorization audit. The audit is ongoing. The officers who had raised concerns during the briefing and had not formally objected submitted formal retrospective objections once the investigation's findings became known. Those objections are now part of the permanent record of the briefing. My name was removed from the attendance log. A formal notation was added to my file, documenting that my name had been placed on the record without my knowledge or consent, and that I had not attended the briefing or consented to any of its contents. The notation is 4 sentences. 4 sentences that say I was not there, which is what I said on Wednesday morning in Opoku's office, which was true on Tuesday and was true on Wednesday, and is true now.
Sergeant Lena Benson. She had not known when she sat with me at lunch on Tuesday that our conversation in the officers' mess between 12:15 and 13:10 would become a verified data point in a forgery investigation. She had not known that her written statement would be part of the architecture that confirmed I was where I said I was. She found me a week after the investigation concluded. She said she was glad she had been there for lunch that Tuesday. I said I was glad too, more than she knew. She said she had always found it notable that I ate lunch at the same time almost every day, that my routine was consistent enough that she had known exactly where I would be on a Tuesday at 12:15. I told her that 8 years of structured work had made consistency a habit I had not chosen so much as accumulated. She said it turned out to matter. She was right. It had turned out to matter enormously. The attendance log, the replacement sheet, the forged sheet, the one with my name and a signature that was not mine, is in the evidence archive now. Beside it is the original print, 11 names, no room for a 12th. Both documents together tell the story of what was added and why, and what was added was removed. My name is clean.
Here is what a signature that was not mine taught me. Build your record carefully. Not because you expect to need it, not because you assume someone will forge your name on a classified document, because the record of where you were and what you did and when you did it is the architecture of your professional life. And the day that architecture is tested, you will not have time to build it from scratch. The timestamps were there because I filed my reports when I completed them. The access card entry was there because I used my own credentials every day. Sergeant Benson's statement was there because I ate lunch at the same time every day for 8 years. None of those things had been done in anticipation of a Wednesday morning conversation with my commanding officer. They had been done because consistency is its own kind of discipline. And on a Wednesday morning in June, that discipline was the only thing standing between my name and a record that said I had been somewhere I had not been. Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And subscribe. I am here every week with a new story. She asked one question. She followed it. Everything after that was hers.